I think that the most generous version of compassion that we can give the world has to be sourced from a well of self-compassion. And every type has a very particular way of how they perceive the world, what they believe to be true about it. And they're all right. They're all the core beliefs of the 9 types are correct. They're not the full truth, but they are a sliver of it, and you can understand why they came to believe it.
Welcome back to the show where we dive into the strategies, habits, and mindsets that empower you to live a life well lived. Today, we're peeling back the layers of our personalities with Elizabeth Orr. She is the author of the Unfiltered Enneagram. It's a book that challenges us to laugh at ourselves while we confront the part of ourselves that we often hide away. This is one of my favorite interviews. I have been so excited to talk to her since I saw that her book was coming out. She has the most hilarious Instagram account that's so accurate about our numbers. I mean, I've been looking forward to this for months and months and months. And you are going to learn something about yourself that's going to help you not only care for yourself well, but love other people well. And after we talk with Elizabeth, of course, it's time for coaching. We are in our Success Secrets series, and today I'm giving you how to rewire your mind for bravery and resilience. How's that for a promise? I hope I'm going to deliver. We'll see. Now, final segment of the show, I'm bringing you a new song by one of my favorite artists of all time. This is one of those songs that when I first heard it, I cried. That is kind of my plumb line. You play a song for me, and if I'm going to cry, that's a good song. This is a crier. Also, don't forget, I am giving away free coaching calls if you have not applied yet. A couple of times a year when my schedule allows, I love to give away free coaching calls. This is for business owners, executives, entrepreneurs. If you've ever wondered what it's like to get personalized, high-level coaching, and you have an issue that you need expert advice on, this is the perfect chance. So how to sign up for free coaching, just go to allieworthington.com/free coaching. I'll also have it at the top of my website. I'm going to have the free coaching calls all throughout June. I'm taking applications now. I'm going to have all the free calls in June. So again, if you're an executive or a business owner, entrepreneur, go ahead and apply so we can get you scheduled. It's allieworthington.com/free coaching. Now, without further ado, here's my new friend, Elizabeth. I am so excited to talk to you. As soon as I heard you had a book coming out, I was excited to talk to you. My question is, what is it like being known as the rudest Enneagram expert on the internet? That is your claim to fame.
That is my notoriety, and I love it. I tend to reject the expert title. I prefer to call myself a class clown, just because I think, we can take ourselves a little too seriously. That's the whole kind of ethos of my Instagram account and my presence online, just taking ourselves with a little bit of levity and some honesty, some hard truths. But I delight every time I post something and the comments are like, ouch! I love that.
Well, okay, so your Instagram account, I was telling you before we started, one of my favorites. You will take, these images from movies or pop culture, and then you'll place Enneagram, content over it. How in the world did you have that idea? How did you go, you know what, I'm going to take the finale of Succession, or I'm going to take Ken and Barbie in the Barbie movie, and I'm going to teach people about their Enneagram number through that. How did it happen?
Yeah, it didn't start there. When I started back in 2018, all I was doing was pulling scenes of movies where a character was saying something that just sort of hit the nail on the head with respect to how the different types might engage. Yeah. But then as I kind of started playing around with the account a little more, and really I've been kind of, I love another brand of these Instagram accounts, which is around like astrology, rude astrology, things like that. They make fun of the different astrological signs, and they were kind of using these pictures and posting these really cutthroat captions and little snippets. And so I just started playing around with that, and it eventually morphed into more of that as my competency in the Enneagram grew.
Well, I absolutely love it. I have to know, when you got hooked on the Enneagram, when did it all click for you? What was your moment that made you go, oh, there's something to this, and I'm about to dive deeper? What was that for you?
Yeah, so I was introduced to the Enneagram when I was a baby. I was like 22 years old, right out of college. Didn't know myself, but all of a sudden was sort of presented with this tool that was so confronting. And I didn't do anything with it for a few years, even though I knew about it. But it wasn't until I got to where I am now, which is in the chaplain's office at Wake Forest University, and I started working with young folks 18 to 22, and I thought back to that moment where I was first introduced to the Enneagram and realized, like, this could be really helpful. I wish I had this when I was a little bit younger. This could be a really helpful tool. So I started introducing it to my students. And from there, I just kept going a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. I had a grad student who was in an Enneagram class in our divinity school. And so she was getting like really incredible information about the Enneagram. And so many of our one-on-one conversations that year were centered around the Enneagram. And so that just continued the invitation.
Huh, I love that. Okay, so how much time went by from when you first were introduced to it till you went, okay, there's really something here. I'm going to pick this back up?
Probably years. I was about 22 when I was introduced, and I started using it when I was around 27, 28. Okay. So there was a good 5 years where I knew about it, but didn't do anything with it and didn't really integrate it even in my work or like personal work.
I remember reading, for me, it was, I took the Ready test and saw that I was a 7, but I did a classic 7 move and flipped through it and skimmed it and was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But then when The Road Back to You came out, I was on a plane and I was flying across the country, and I'm reading that book and I'm crying on the plane going, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just an Enneagram 7. And literally at that point in my life, everything in my life was set up for me to be miserable. Like, if you could custom make a lifestyle to make a 7 just go off the rails, that was me in like 2016, I guess 2016, whenever that book came out.
Yeah.
And I remember that put me on a journey of really praying into things and going, okay, where do I need to be? How do I need to set things up? Because if this is the way that God created me, I deserve to be able to honor this. And it really messed with my head in the best way.
Yep.
And now, now fast forward however many years later, 8 years later, 7 years later, I'm not even sure. And everything in my life is set up for me to thrive. And what a difference. And I look back to the Allie 7 or 8 years ago with so much empathy and compassion. Like, look at the dark years you walked through. You had to fight for this. I wonder for you, like, if there was a time that the Enneagram kind of messed with your head, or if you've seen it do that to other people and they've learned how to live life in a way that honors them too.
Yeah, I am just on the other side of a real head messing at the hands of the Enneagram, particularly in my professional life. I work as an associate university chaplain, and so really, like, religious and spiritual life of college students and the broader community is my day-to-day. But I'm also like a punk kid from outside of Boston. And I grew up outside of Boston in the early aughts. And so I was in middle school when the clergy sex abuse scandal broke. And I watched the pain that wrought in Catholic churches and in sort of the Catholic world. And so I had a real chip on my shoulder about institutional religion in general. And so making the choice to work, like craft my professional arc around religious and spiritual life and institutional religion was me picking a fight every single day as an 8, which I loved. I love, you know, I mean, I'm laughing and rolling my eyes because there's a little bit of like ridiculous ego involved in me believing that I, you know, could run up against the brick wall of a 2,000-year-old institution every day and like make a mark. But I had this realization as I got into my mid-30s. I realized, okay, I've been doing this 7 or 8 years now, and hopefully I have another 30 years left of a career. Like, and that's what I want. I want a nice long career in this. So if you took the time that I've been on this earth and doubled it, then that's what I have to look forward to. This constant fighting is not sustainable. That is not going to give me a long career. That is not going to give me a life-giving career if all I'm doing is showing up to battle every day. As much as I love it, as much as it gives me a thrill, I'm going to burn out. And so recognizing my desire to fight, my desire to feel strong as a way to cover up my tender, squishy, marshmallow heart as an 8.
As an 8, it's in there.
Don't tell anyone, but it is. And what I also recognized at the same time was that I was actually being invited into something a lot more gentle and a lot more life-giving. And there were spaces outside of what I had set up for myself that were kind of beckoning to me and inviting me into a different way of showing up every day and really a different job. And I was very fortunate that I was able to kind of repurpose my job entirely.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm very fortunate for that. Not everybody has that luxury, but all of this kind of converged at the right time for the university as well. And so the last couple of years, I've been in a role that's just been so life-giving and exciting. And, you know, I still consider myself Catholic. I still hold that identity, but there's a gentleness in that and in how I get to show up in it because I'm not trying to fight something anymore.
That's really wonderful. And I love how, okay, you're the Enneagram expert, so you can explain it. But to me, what I hear is as an 8, you're a challenger. So you've got this fight in you.
Sure do.
But you've kind of opened up a safe place for you to be, you know, gentle in that mushy middle show every day, which is really scary for an 8, right?
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And is the way that we are invited to live longer and really do the work that we're called to do as 8s, which is support others in contacting their agency. It's not about our agency. It's not about our fight. It is about reminding other people of their aliveness and their agency. And I can only do that when I give away what I think is my power.
Totally. And that's the beauty of the self-awareness that the Enneagram brings.
Amen.
Because you probably didn't have it in the top of your mind. I've got a big, squishy, vulnerable middle underneath this. You know, that's probably not what you've been thinking, top of mind, right?
I try to avoid thinking about that.
Yeah, exactly. So it is that when people say, well, I don't get the Enneagram, I don't understand the point. It's a trend. Well, it is trendy because everyone's finding out about it thanks to the internet and really loving it. But it's a tool of self-awareness, so we can constantly improve and we can constantly love people well and love ourselves well. And
exactly.
So if someone is just discovering the Enneagram or they haven't gone deep in it, what are some common pitfalls that people can fall into right when they're discovering it?
Sure. I think one of the biggest pitfalls that really, no matter where you are on your journey, that can be an easy trap to fall into is identifying too much with the type that you land on.
Yeah.
Like, I am an 8, and that is going to excuse all my bad behavior and explain why I refuse to get along with other people. So using the Enneagram as an excuse, as a shield for our bad behavior, and using it as a weapon against others.
Yeah.
You know, well, I don't like 2s because they are way too sensitive. I think that can be a real common pitfall. And I think just not recognizing the dynamism of the Enneagram. There is so much movement that is available to us. You know, a lot of people can also recoil from the Enneagram because it feels like, don't box me in, but that's not how the Enneagram operates. It's actually much more fluid and dynamic. And so embracing that nature of it that allows us to flow and to lean on other types and to find ourselves resonating with other types, I think that's really where the magic happens. But you have to kind of release the grip that we feel on our type.
Yeah, totally. I have to tell you, because I got an early copy of your book. So back in March, I took a group, I think there were 14 of us, all my clients, my chief of staff, all my clients and chief of staff. We rented a big house in Florida, and I had your book. And so my chief of staff, Ashley, she's reading your book, and she's reading out loud segments of your book. And you can just see women like, oh, that is me. That is me. You know, women who weren't even really that into the Enneagram. And it is truly hilarious. And she was like, if you don't know your number, just read the beginning of the chapter on each number, and one of those will read your mail, and you'll be offended, and your feelings might be hurt, but it will tell you everything about you, which was great. The Enneagram 7 chapter, one of my favorite things that you did in the book, because you have such a great writing voice.
Oh,
you said, I know I put this, tell me if I'm wrong, but because I haven't read it since March. I put this chapter last, and you didn't read anything else in the book. You skipped right to the chapter about you, and you're just skimming it right now. And I was like, darn it. Yes.
Yep. Nailed it.
It is so perfect because you can tell just at what you're doing on Instagram, your deep knowledge of the Enneagram. Like, I know just enough to be dangerous and mess things up. I can't guess someone's Enneagram number. Sure. I brush the surface. But like the stuff that you're putting out there and everything in the book, it's super, super meaningful. Another thing you talk about in the book is shadow self. Mm-hmm. Will you break that down for us and kind of give us an overview there?
So the shadow side, the way that I like to reframe the shadow side for taking a page out of my Type 7's book, it's really our survival mechanics. It's how we are trying to survive in the world as we perceive it. And every type has a very particular way of how they perceive the world, what they believe to be true about it. And they're all right. They're all the core beliefs of the 9 types are correct. They're not the full truth, but they are a sliver of it, and you can understand why they came to believe it.
I got to jump in. Will you go through those core beliefs just really quickly? Because I'm sure people are like, I wonder what my core belief is.
Yeah.
Go for it. Okay.
Yeah. So the Type 8, I'm going to start with the gut center. Okay. Type 8's core belief is that the world is a place in which the powerful, the people who hold capital and influence, will exploit that which is tender, that which is sensitive and vulnerable for their own gain. They will disempower and take away our control and our autonomy. We can look around and find evidence for that.
Sure. The
Type 9 believes that the world is a place in which connection and closeness are fragile and tenuous and easily broken because we're not important, right? People just throw people away, discard people. Again, that rings true. We've all experienced that. Type 1 sees a world in which we could be so much better, but people are not putting forth any effort to improve the world. It's just a messy place, and people are perfectly happy to accept this mess that we have and themselves as mess. There's no interest in self-improvement either. Type 2 looks around the world and they see it's a place that lacks love. There isn't enough love in the world for people. Type 3 looks around the world, and what they see is that the love that exists in the world is transactional. You have to earn it. You have to prove your worth to be worthy of being loved. Type 4 looks around the world, and they see a place where there's no meaning to anything we're doing, and they don't matter. They're not significant. None of their depth and their insight and their incredible emotional, none of it matters. None of us matter. It's pointless. It's sort of nihilism. Type 5 looks around the world and they see a place that is demanding, that takes more than it gives, and that consumes and overwhelms. Type 6 looks around the world and they see a place that's dangerous and that they are abandoned in. People are fickle and will not look out for them when the going gets tough. And then type 7 looks around the world and they see a place where there could be so much promise and potential, but the world is accepting of mediocrity and the world is disappointing and just wants to limit what's possible. And so from those core beliefs, that's the world that we perceive.
Right.
And then we try to respond to it. We try to keep ourselves safe and try to get what we need. And that is what our shadow side really and truly is.
Okay, that is so amazing to break down, because again, it's peeling back another layer of self-awareness.
Yes.
Once we realize, like, oh, this is the lens that I have a tendency to see the world through because of, and no one knows, a little bit of nature, a little bit of nurture, early childhood experiences, right?
Yep.
Once we realize that, we don't have to be trapped by it and we can have empathy for what's going on.
Exactly.
But if people aren't talking about the shadow side, we're not going to be able to improve, right?
Exactly. So, we're missing the whole point.
Yeah. What if someone is just wrapping their brain around the concept? They don't have your book yet. Amazon 2-day shipping. It's going to take a little while.
Sure. If
they don't have it, what's something that they need to know right now, or something that they could begin to understand?
So if they don't have my book, or if they're like new to the Enneagram even, the way that I always think is one of the best ways to start that practice of self-awareness is get curious about your own emotional reactivity. So when you get annoyed above a baseline, or when you get angry above a baseline, when you get scared or embarrassed, rather than trying to resist that feeling, get curious about it. What's underneath that? What am I afraid is being threatened in this moment? And if you need a little space from the immediate moment, that's fine too. Go back though. Go make sure that you do reflect on it and get curious about it. And because there's all this unconscious stuff under the surface, but our emotional responses can tell us so much about what we think, the narrative that we are believing, what we think other people's motivations are, and what we're trying to protect within ourselves.
That's really good. Let's also talk about self-compassion.
Yes.
What has the Enneagram taught you about self-compassion? That's I feel like it's one of the most important keys to emotional health, right?
Absolutely. I don't think you can't love anyone else until you love yourself. I think it's a little more fluid than that. And I think that the most generous version of compassion that we can give the world has to be sourced from a well of self-compassion, from generosity towards ourselves. And so what the Enneagram has taught me, there is both, the Enneagram encompasses both the beautiful essence, the light of the type, and also the shadow side. Yeah. And we need to have compassion for both of those ends of the spectrum. And so it's easy to look at the light of our type and be proud of it and embrace it. But the shadow side is where it gets more difficult. And what I have been so appreciative about the Enneagram is that, again, that shadow side is our shield. And it names why we behave the way we do, why we felt like we needed to become the way that we've become. Why as an 8, I felt like I needed to become crusty and offensive and,
I like crusty as it.
Yeah. And so, and this is something I hit really hard in the book over and over again, which is every type had good reason to become the way that they did. The ones were trusted with responsibility and praise for their exacting standards and their reliability. The 2s were praised for how loving they are and how little they ask for in return. The 7s have been loved because of how fun they are and how how much their enthusiasm gets all of us amped up. And so these strategies have worked. And so it's important to remember, I was just getting my needs met and I was doing the best I could. My best is different now. My best will be different tomorrow. Might not be as good as it is today. But I was doing the best I could. I wasn't trying to hurt someone. I was trying to survive based on how I see the world. And that is such an important strand to hold on to when we start to confront that which is mortifying in our behavior.
That's such a great way to phrase it, because half the time it is mortifying.
Oh, that's rough.
So good. What's something about the Enneagram that you like to teach people that we haven't covered?
I like little sort of hidden things about type.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I write about this in the book, so it's a little less hidden now, but type 7s, they are known as these lighthearted, fun, silly types. And in every type 7 that I've ever known, there is such an incredible hidden well of spiritual depth. These are the philosophers and sages of the world. They hide it under silly hijinks, but they have such a profound depth to them and in their insights. And so I just love peeling back the curtain a little bit and showing the things that we don't always see about type, how sensitive the 5 is. Those little sweethearts, they're so deeply sensitive, but they get this reputation for being really robotic. They prefer to not have their sensitivity seen, but they are some of the most tender people out there. So that's what I like to uncover.
Okay, now I know some people say 6s are 45% of the population,
I've heard that.
Everyone's secretly a 6. What are some surprising things about 6s for all the 6s out there listening?
Well, they're going to be surprised. They are so scrappy. I love 6s. They don't believe me because they don't believe a compliment. But they are so, it's not all of their best laid preparation. It's not all of the Band-Aids they carry or the questions that they fire at all of us. It's really, they have such this scrappy engine within them to survive. And actually, that is what ends up protecting us. They are not the ones that need protection. They are the ones who give us shelter. And so that's what I really love about 6s. And I wish and hope, my book and my account can help them see that in themselves, because it's just so incredible.
I love that. Okay, last question about this specifically. This is just for me. This is Elizabeth and Allie coaching time. I love to hire Enneagram 1s because I believe in hiring for my weaknesses. So as a 7, my weaknesses would be everything that 1 loves to do, right?
Sure. Yep.
So I'm very careful with my 1s never to flippantly criticize, because I know if there's something I'm unhappy with, they are looking with the heat of a million suns at that, and they are already beating themselves up over it.
Yep.
You never have to wonder is that Enneagram 1 just slacking over there? Is she not doing No, absolutely not. So, like, if you have an Enneagram 1 as an employee, or you love an Enneagram 1, you're married to one, or you have one as a child, how do you love them well? Like, what's the best thing we can do for them that doesn't trigger them being hard on themselves? Because they're already hard on themselves.
Right, right. I think one of the best things we can do is model for others what we hope for them. So when the one is nitpicking or correcting or imposing standards that maybe aren't totally necessary, just not reacting in a defensive way, just being really receptive and hearing them out. Ones really want to be heard out. They really, there's a lot of whiplash within the one. They believe they're right, but they also think that there's sort of this like inner rot within them that just ruins everything that they do, no matter how hard they try.
Like, I feel like I'm right, but it's probably not good enough. Like that kind
exactly.
of thing? Okay,
exactly
gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, being receptive to, and in a gentle way, like, okay, tell me about that. And sort of modeling how you might like them to receive feedback. But always just assuring the one that to you, what their efforts are enough.
That's great.
It's the outcome is less important than I see how hard you're working. And I'm so grateful for what you're bringing to this process.
Oh, that's so good. Enneagram is so helpful in the workplace. I mean, of course, it's helpful in our families and our relationship, but in the workplace, knowing what motivates people, knowing what could potentially be triggering to people, I mean, it's huge. And having other people understand the Enneagram number, you know, don't joke that you read an 8's personal diary. They will kill you, you know. Don't tell an Enneagram 7 they don't ever get to make any decisions anymore. Like, don't joke around. Like, it's too terrible. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It's so helpful. Okay. This has been amazing. Again, I'm so impressed with your depth of knowledge and your humor and how you nail everything with the Enneagram. I love it.
Allie.
I really love it. Okay. Fun questions for you, of course. Yes. What about a TV show or a movie that you're liking right now?
I love a cult movie, a movie about a cult, or a documentary. Yeah. So I've just gotten into the one about Synanon on HBO Max.
Oh, I don't know anything about it.
Oh, it's so the Synanon cult kind of came out of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was a movement in the 60s. It was all about helping people sort of reach sobriety, but as is true of a lot of cults, it started in a really great way and then it got dark fast. So it's just really, I love watching stuff like that.
Yeah, because you definitely see the shadow side.
Sure can.
And wild human dynamics. Okay, we'll put that on the list. What about anything? Would that be a TV or a movie? It's kind of in between
TV,
both of them. A TV.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's like a docuseries.
That's great. Any movies that you've enjoyed recently?
On the complete other end of the spectrum, I've been rewatching the Pitch Perfect movies.
That is on the other end of the spectrum. You're embracing all of you.
Exactly. It's both ends.
I love that. Yeah. Okay, what about a book that you're recommending?
So I am recommending, it's also very different from my normal stuff, but I am giving a shout out to A Long Run to Glory. My high school history teacher and track coach wrote it, and it is a book about the first ever women's Olympic marathon.
No way.
Yeah, it's a fantastic history book. It's really interesting. I'm not a runner. I was a track athlete, but I'm not a runner. But it's just really fascinating. And he and I have remained, my coach, Steve Lane, we've remained friends through my adulthood, and we were kind of both writing at the same time. So got to give him a shout out. And it's a great book. That's
great. That's a great recommendation. What about a product that made you tell a friend that they needed to have it?
Yes. I'm showing my age. I've really had a lot of plantar fasciitis recently in the last year. And so I got myself a pair of Hoka Bondi 8s, and I can make it through the day.
Really?
They're incredible. It's like walking on clouds. The hype is real.
I guarantee somebody is like, well, let me go get those right now. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. I've tried to limp through other pairs of shoes, but these are the only ones that get me through the day.
Here's the thing. We don't even need to talk about age because it's a thing. There are certain, I mean, at some point, there are certain shoes that work with your knees or work with your feet, and then there's just not. Like
True.
I actually had to go to, I'll tell you, physical therapy for a little while because I walked around too long at Disney in Crocs.
Oh,
and he was like, I see people in here for muscle or knee things all the time because of Crocs, because your foot moves around inside of them. So now I'm that woman out in public at like amusement parks, like, girl, you're gonna mess your knee up in those Crocs.
Let me spare you the pain of the Crocs.
I have yet to tell a stranger that she may regret her footwear choices.
Sure.
But out of, the goodness of my heart, I secretly want to. Okay, so that is one of the best product recommendations for people in the audience who need it as we've ever had. Okay, last question.
Yes.
What about a fun app that you use every day?
So every morning I wake up to my daily torture, which is the New York Times games. I'm not a Wordle girl, but I do love connections and the mini crossword. And I then later will get on TikTok and hear people being like, what was that connections nonsense today? So it's punishment, and I love it, and I can't escape it.
I love it. It's so good for you. Well, this has been amazing. Like I said at the beginning, I've been excited about the show since I found out you were going to come on. Tell everyone the name of your book and where to go find it.
Yeah, so you can purchase the Unfiltered Enneagram, a Witty and Wise guide to self-compassion, anywhere that you purchase books. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. There are independent bookstores that carry it. So go ham. It's out there. Awesome. It's on Audible and it's on ebook as well. So all formats.
And just in case little ears are in the car while you are listening to this, we're not going to say the name of Elizabeth's Instagram account, but we are going to link it on the show notes. So just scroll down and you can follow the most amazing Instagram account. I can't say it because I'll get in trouble.
We don't want that.
We don't want to say it. Okay, thank you for coming on the show. I can't wait to have you on again.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait till next time.
Isn't she great? I told you this is such a fun one. I'm giving away lots of copies of the book. So to enter, if you are watching this right now on YouTube, be sure that you are subscribed, like it, and leave a comment. If you are listening to this, take a screenshot and tag me, and you'll be entered to win. When you win, I'll DM you and let you know, and you'll send me your address, and you'll have an amazing book show up in your mailbox. Okay, now let's go on to coaching time. Today I'm sharing how to rewire your mind for bravery and resilience. So, in movies, we often see heroes facing huge challenges, right? And they have wise mentors giving them a confidence boost, and they go conquer the world. Think Yoda in Star Wars with Luke Skywalker, right? But the thing is, confidence does not really come first. It is a result of doing something hard, of pushing out of your comfort zone. That's where bravery steps in. Bravery is feeling scared but choosing to try something new anyway. Bravery draws strength from knowing others believe in you and remembering that you can overcome hard things because you've overcome hard things in the past. It also comes from remembering your past failures. The truth is, we never hit it out of the park on the first time we try something. But remembering how we overcame these things will build our resilience, and that makes us brave enough to try again. Because the truth is, we may have had a failure that felt terrible at the time, but we're still standing. We made it. That failure that we thought was going to take us out did not, in fact, kill us, right? You got to have failure to get strong. For instance, I always think about, remember the movie WALL-E, right? where everybody on the Axiom, they're all in these floating chairs and they're just eating processed foods all the time. And their bodies aren't strong enough to hold themselves up because their bodies are never challenged. They're riding around in floating chairs. You have to challenge yourself. You have to do things that are difficult. You have to do things sometimes that are super uncomfortable to get stronger, right? The truth is you don't need an external cheerleader. You can be your own hype woman, not in a phony, I'm perfect, I'm going to, take over the world way, but by reflecting on your own real experiences. You can think back when you tackled, say, a nerve-wracking job interview, maybe, or you sent your child off to school for the first time. That's nerve-wracking. Or you taught your child 5th grade math, which oddly enough was way harder than it should have been for an adult who pays a mortgage and does their taxes, right? Both our victories and our setbacks teach us really valuable lessons. Your struggles and your successes are your greatest assets against the fear of the unknown. This week, this is your homework. I want you to take a minute and I want you to revisit your past wins. All those things that you did well, all those things that you were successful at. We don't do this like we should. I think we don't do it because we don't want anything to lead us to being prideful, right? But seriously, when was the last time you sat around and thought, let me identify some ways I've been killing it lately, right? You probably can't even remember ever doing that, but I want you to. And if you do that, I promise you are not going to change your personality and become prideful overnight, okay? You're not. That's not how it works. I want you to celebrate the times that you dared to step into the unknown and that you came out stronger. But I want you to think about the mistakes. I want you to think about the stumbles too. But this time, I want you to view them as stepping stones toward growth and resilience. Because by shifting our perspective from judgment to learning, you're going to find the courage to face new things head on. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. I don't want you to be afraid to look back at your wins. When I get on coaching calls with my clients, what my clients have to do before every call, they have to fill out some information. And I make them identify wins that they've had since the last time we've talked. And it's very, very difficult for people. But it's also important to do it. Because when we identify our wins, we can identify where God is strengthening us. We can identify where God is moving in our lives. We can identify where we have some momentum, where there is wind at our back and where we're moving forward. If we don't do that, we're never going to honor it. And if we don't honor it, we're not going to step into that more as God is calling us to. I got off on a tangent by talking about that, so I'm going to try to pull it back and talk about what I was supposed to, but I wanted you to hear that about wins. Every experience you have, whether smooth or bumpy, it will shape you into a stronger, more capable woman. I want you to embrace that journey in your life. I want you to learn from it. And I want you to know that God is with you. And I want you to keep moving forward with confidence. You're not going to build the confidence overnight, but it will build over time. You don't need to be ashamed of the mistakes that you made in the past. You didn't have the resources and the wisdom and the understanding and all the abilities you have now when you made your past mistakes. I want you to look back on that with compassion. Because sometimes when we look back and we beat ourselves up, we're going to stay stuck. But if we look back and go, let me have compassion for the woman I was in that moment. Let me have compassion for who I was in 2016 when I was just doing the best that I could. Or in 1996 when I was just doing the best that I could. It's easy for us to look back now and go, I wish it had been different. I wish I had done things different. But there is real power in giving ourselves grace and having compassion for what we've been through. And that the fact that we have gone through pain in our past or we've gone through mistakes, sometimes we will do that. And what happens is we are planting seeds in those seasons that we're enjoying the fruit of now. That we never would have had the fruit in our lives that we have now had we not gone through those painful seasons and the hard work we did, even when we messed a lot of stuff up, the hard work we did planted seeds that we can enjoy now. So that's what I want you to do. Got it? Okay, good. Now, recommendations. You know I'm a singer-songwriter girl. That is my thing. Last summer, I think it was last summer, we had singer-songwriter summer, which is totally my favorite kind of music. That's who I want to tell you about right now. I think I've probably told you about him before, but it's Josh Garrels. If I haven't, he is a Christian singer-songwriter who's been one of my favorites for almost 15 years now. He has a new song out, and like I said, when this song came out, I wept. Maybe the first 10 times I heard it, gosh, I'll choke up thinking about it. There's certain lines in there that gets me every time. I'm tearing up right now. That's when you know I love a song. So his song is called The Watchman. We'll link it on the show notes, of course. I put it on the Spotify playlist that we listen to, Worship for Fierce Faith on Spotify. Lots of his songs are on that playlist because he's so, so good. Let me give you a couple other songs by him if you like The Watchman. Maybe the best song of his, I think, is called Beyond the Blue. I love that. That's on our playlist. And I'll give you one more. I really want you to listen to a song called Farther Along. When you listen to these songs, I want you to use the lyric feature, whether you listen on Apple Music or Spotify, because he has a super unique voice, and sometimes the lyrics can be hard to understand. So when you listen to these, open up that lyric play as you're listening, and they're pretty deep and pretty beautiful, and I really, really love it. Okay, now I'm super excited to share with you a fun review that we got on Amazon for Remaining You While Raising Them. I don't know your name. I just know your initials are AJH because that's what you go by on Amazon. But AJH, who is my new bestie, she wrote, if you only read one book on motherhood, make it this one. I have 5 kids ranging from 14 to 3, and I have read book after parenting book. This one is perfect. Thank you, AJH. It's pretty much the nicest review ever. That's literally why I wrote that book, because I talked to so many women and parenting books just made them feel like garbage. Like so many women said, I wish I never even read that book, or I couldn't finish it, or it made me cry, or made me feel like a fail. All of it. I wanted a book to build up women and to give them the information that they needed, to equip us with wisdom, equip us with knowledge. So it's, it has the spiritual component, but it has the research component too. So women put that book down and go, okay, I feel a lot better. I feel a lot better after reading this than I ever did. It is the best thing I can hear. I also heard from tons of women that it made a great Mother's Day book, and you guys are giving it to new moms when they have babies or when they're pregnant. So thank you. It's amazing. It's amazing what God is doing with that book, and it really humbles me. You know what else is amazing? I think you're amazing, and I'm so glad that you're here. I love the fact that we have this time together every week to invest in ourselves, because an investment in you, in your spiritual health, in your emotional health, and your professional success, it benefits everyone in your life. I believe in you. I believe in what you're doing. I believe in where you're going. I believe in your dreams, and I know you're making an impact on this world for good. How can I know it? How can I know for sure? Because you're here. You're not messing around in life. You're not just going from life stage to life stage. You're here to learn. You're here to invest in yourself. You're here to live the life that God is calling you to and improve bit by bit every day. What I know is that God has created you to stand strong and do something special and unique in this world that only you can do. So keep stepping up, keep showing up, keep loving well, because you know the truth. You can't break a woman who gets her strength from God. I love to get to coach you. I love to get to equip you. I love to get to bring new voices and new information to you. This is what I love to do. I hope you have a great week, and I'll be with you next Monday.